Hi, I'm NUnruh, and I'm going to be discussing The Language of God, written by Francis Collins. Its purpose is to unite and justify the scientific and the spiritual world. I'm going to begin by saying that I've cut out many points presented in this book. Most were cut because they didn't pertain directly to why there are logical reasons for God's existence. I left out the thoughts on Genesis 1 and 2 in the Bible. I also left out the first biblical couple, Adam and Eve, and what they probably represented. And finally, I completely cut the debate presented on how the human genome could be used ethically in medicine. I urge you very strongly to read this book and get Collins' ideas on all that. It will definitely change your views about everything you thought before. It did for me. So, with that said, I'm going to primarily discuss the logistics of a theistic God's existence. We'll begin with the origins of the universe. The primary theory presented is the Big Bang theory, the universe expanding from one definite point, and this holds to the best knowledge of what we have right now to this day. No one really knows what started the Big Bang theory, but we're just going to leave that open for now. And then there's our solar system. Our sun formed later in the Big Bang theory, with Earth forming from the leftover carbon from its form. The Earth was very hot at the beginning, and then it cooled down, and life formed approximately 4 billion years ago. Approximately 150 million years ago, we had the Cambrian explosion, which all this self-replicating bacteria forming and being able to take care of themselves. This leads to the anthropic principle. For all the variables involved in forming this universe, it's amazing that everything fit and worked perfectly. So, we're going to be discussing why. One option presented was that there are infinite universes with their own rules, and that we were just very lucky to be on this one where everything worked and fit perfectly and gave us ourselves. The second is that God made this one specific universe, and that he isn't of the natural laws, and is supernatural, because otherwise, if he was of the natural laws, he wouldn't have been able to make all this for us. He exists in the past, present, and future, and knows exactly how things are going to work, and how they have worked. And he knows how the earth works, and about us. These options will make you ask questions about your beliefs, and they must be answered before you can really make any definite decisions on this. Now we'll go into the life on Earth. Nature must have been contrived. To believers, be careful of putting God into current gaps of knowledge. These gaps will be filled eventually, and this puts religion and theology at risk. Put your reasons for God behind math principles and the order in creation, which would be evolution. Now there's the fossil record. With the Cambrian explosion, organisms showed up a lot, and very diverse. But this doesn't specifically lead to God directly having a hand in it, as in having to go in and correct his original plan. This is a God of the gaps that we don't want to really think about or talk about. Then we have, it says that the asteroid killed dinosaurs and mammals appear. And this makes us believe in the tree of life. It probably works because the fossils show it works, and it will probably always work. Now we'll go into Darwin. Darwin came up with the natural selection evolutionary theory. He wrote this in The Origin of Species. Next he did on man's evolution, which would be the descent of man. I'm going to go out on a limb here to religion and say evolution is true and it works. This might put some people off and make others mad, but if you're willing to believe it, then God set up the parameters for the universe and how life would work. Now we'll go into DNA. How order manifested itself wasn't discovered until after Darwin came up with the Origin of Species. He knew that it worked, he just didn't quite know why. Then Mendel backed up Darwin's theories with mathematical heredity, and finally DNA was discovered. And then its shape was discovered, which was very simple and direct for what was needed to make everything. It's kind of amazing and very complicated, and I'm not really going to discuss it, but I urge you to read the book. Now we'll go into deciphering this instruction book. Dr. Collins was the director for the Human Genome Project. He and his team of scientists decoded the entire human DNA sequence. They discovered that only 1% of DNA codes for protein, and humans have very low genetic diversity, coming from about 10,000 people and from 100,000 years ago. This is very different from all other animals. They came from a long section, and the fact that we have this specific intelligence and everything and came from about 100,000 years ago, it's unusual. But the protein-making regions of DNA for us match all other animals all the way back to bacteria in places. This leads to evolution proof, and it makes the tree of life similar to fossil in the anatomical tree. If God made us exactly as we are, why would we have mutations in DNA? And why would we have, the appendix and wisdom teeth? Because they aren't necessary and they're actually kind of a pain and get in the way. Some people believe in microevolution, in which we just have small changes, like, the shape of our fingernail changing or something, and not the macroevolution, which is we came all the way from the beginning. But if you think of it, it doesn't really make sense, because eventually micro becomes macro. It just does. That's how it works. Now we'll go into humans and chimpanzees and how we have common ancestry. This is also going to be controversial. Humans have 23 genomes and chimps 24. Our second chromosome is actually a fused version of the chimpanzee's 2A and 2B. And we also have a pseudogene. This gene is almost functional, but it mutated enough to be useless in humans. But mammals have a useful one. If humans are a specific act of God, why would he make a useless gene in us? Now we'll go into the theories of creation and evolution. There's atheism and agnosticism, when science trumps faith. This theory, they like to use evolutionary theory against God. But I'm just going to say that God didn't make everything as it is now. He set the framework and laws so Earth didn't have to make itself as needed with its own adjustments. And then we have that science demands atheism. God is a spiritual and moral topic. He can't be affirmed or disproved by scientific means. And I'm just going to put out here that all I've ever heard about evolution and God and science is that you have to believe one or the other. You can't have both. But here it's presented that there can be both, and this is different for me. So, there can be harmony. It's amazing. Alright, so I'm going to say to you atheists, you can be one all you want, but I wouldn't use evolution to justify yourself. Because, hey, I believe in evolution, and I'm a believer. Alright, and then to you agnostics who don't believe, well, you don't really know what you believe. So, I'm going to say that that is logically defensive. You can use it, but it's kind of a cop-out, because you're saying, oh, I don't know, I'm just not going to know for forever. So, I would say use it with caution, and only after you've researched and you truly do not quite know if there is or isn't a God. Now we'll go into the primary theory for religion. Young Earth creationism, when faith trumps science. These people believe the literal translation of the Bible, which would mean that Earth is less than 10,000 years old. This doesn't quite work with anything. With a fossil record, with geology, just really anything. I don't quite believe how they get this, but... And if we believed it, then all scientific evidence we found would be made purely to confuse, and it's just something that God came up with. But why would he do that? Why would he want us to worship him if he routinely lies and likes to confuse us? I don't know if I'd want to worship a God like that. Just saying. And then, if creationism is accepted, then all the theories and scientific thought of this world that we have would collapse. It just wouldn't work anymore because all these theories are based on that the Earth is old. Alright, now we have intelligent design, which some like to believe, in which science needs divine help. This says that God stepped in at points to redirect and correct things during evolution to make it, make us who we are and have to fix things. But this kind of makes God clumsy. And I wouldn't like to believe that my God is clumsy and he has to fix things. That's not quite fits with what he is, because if he's perfect, he wouldn't have to fix anything. And also, intelligent design doesn't present any other theories to prove this thought. They just say, hey, God went in and fixed things. Okay. Alright, so then we have Collins, who finally came and said, alright, I'm going to have the science in harmony with spiritual, which he presents as biologos. It's just a new idea that he's come up with. He has several ideas on how this could all work, and these are his definite principles for this theory. The universe came out of nothing. He doesn't really know what started it. and it was approximately 14 billion years ago. The universe was set by God for having life. He came up with it. And then we have evolution and natural selection permitting development of life. Once evolution started, there was no need for God tweaking it. And then we have humans formed through evolution and share ancestry with great apes. And finally, we, specifically, are unique in ways unexplained by science. This is the moral law and the search for God. This proposes God as the source of life, and life expresses the will of God. God is the answer to how did the universe get here? What is the meaning of life? And what happens to us after we die? God is spiritual. He cannot be defined by science. That is all I have to say, and that's the end.